Railway Reminiscences. British Railways was undergoing some major changes in the 1950s and 60s, not least in the type of motive power used. In this film, we recall the atmosphere of those times with firemen such as Biff Manville, Dick Holden and Tom Upshall as they reminisce about some of the more quirky aspects of life on the railways. The picturesque Horsham to Guildford Direct Railway, an ex-London, Brighton and South Coast Railway byway, ran from Christ's Hospital to Peasmarsh Junction just outside Guildford via Slinford, Rudgwick, Baynards, Cranley and Bramley. Biff Manville describes how he came to join the railway's workforce.
My father was a driver on the railway. He was in dualling, driving steam and electric trains. My father said I ought to try for something else, so I went behind his back and got an interview. And he only found out after I came home and said I've got a job. So I left school at Christmas, starting 1st of January 1961 as an engine cleaner at Three Bridges. I did that for 10 months until I was 16, then I went to firing school and got appointed as a fireman at Horsham, which was a bit unusual at 16. Quite often you'd be a pass cleaner. But because they were short of firemen, I skipped by that and went straight into the passenger link at Horsham with the old drivers, which caused a lot of resentment. The old senior drivers suddenly found they got the 6 junior firemen, where they'd had senior firemen for years who knew what they had to do exactly and probably did a lot of the driver's work as well, underneath the engine and all this, found they'd got these junior firemen that knew nothing.
Such rapid promotions through the ranks undoubtedly caused resentment amongst those who had spent years working their way up before the war. Dick Holden also remembers the awkwardness experienced between railway workers.
Normally used to sign on together, and the normal procedure was that you used to help one another, yeah? But not the guy that I had. He was a real tyrant.
The driver I went with, Bill Percival, I'd known him since I was born. And to me, it was Uncle Bill. We used to go for tea with my mother and father. But when I got with him as his fireman, all of a sudden Uncle Bill wasn't so friendly. He hardly spoke to me for the first 2 weeks. I couldn't believe it. And the first day I was with him, we were going to Brighton. And I thought, I'll impress him. I'll wash the footplate down, because he used to like that, keep it all clean. So I washed it all down. He came back on the engine and said, don't ever do that again. He said, the water upsets my feet. So, and the rest of the day he didn't talk to me.
You've got to hand it to the drivers. They were the bee's knees. They were God, if you like. You know, whatever they said happened. We never really got on. But luckily with Ted, as he was one of the top drivers at the depot, the turns we had was nothing before 5:30 and everything was finished by 10:30 at night. And all we did literally was the Guildford pushing pulls and the Brighton passenger.
The pairing of highly experienced drivers and junior firemen, with the latter's eagerness to prove themselves, sometimes occasioned moments of embarrassment, as Biff Manville wryly recalls.
There was a bit of a lurch on the engine. My wrist caught the side of the firebox, and naturally I just went ouch and let go of the shovel, which disappeared in the firebox, which is a nightmare because I spent the rest of the time going to Guildford throwing coal in with my hands. We'd phoned from Cranley for a new shovel to be given to us at Guildford when we arrived, which it was. This fella was there, been sent from the shed, there's your shovel. Well, thanks very much, bit embarrassing that. The next day on the same train, I think we just left Cranley, and I got my wrist bandaged up, and all of a sudden I got a pain in my wrist, and the shovel went again, and I couldn't believe this, and the driver looked at me, he was not very happy, and we phoned from Bramley to Guildford, could they please have another shovel waiting? When we got into Guildford, there's this labourer sent across with a shovel, and he said to my driver, the foreman would like to know if this fireman's going to be on here the rest of the week, because if he is, he's going to send me out here with a shovel every evening. And honestly, I was embarrassed, yeah. And of course everyone got to hear about it back at Horsham. It was suggested I tied the shovel to my wrist with a bit of string for the rest of the week.
The Horsham and Guildford line was to remain steam operated right up to its closure in 1965, and for Biff as a young fireman, it was a rare experience to be given the opportunity of firing the last train.
I was fairly lucky to be on it on the last day because having been rostered to work it Monday to Friday, I wasn't on it on the Saturday on the last day, and then another fireman, Brian Pryor, said to me would I like to change with him for the Saturday, so I was really chuffed. So I was with Ken Irving Monday to Friday. On the Saturday I was with Ken Chapman, who's now at Red Hill. Ken said to me, you can drive one way and I'll drive the other, which was nice. So we tossed a coin. He drove to Guildford and I drove back.
During the trip, they were joined on the footplate by a fellow spectator of the railway's last day, who ended up getting more than he bargained for.
As soon as he got on the engine, he said to Ken, of course I'm used to riding on much larger engines on the Great Western, whereupon Ken said, well, if you don't like a little engine, you can get off. But he said, no, I didn't mean that. He did the shovelling going over, Ken did the driving. This guy, I said, well, you can have a go on the shovel. Ken was hitting this engine a bit going, and mate, he had to do a lot of shovelling, I do remember that. And I just said, well, it's uphill all the way. When we came back, it was my turn to drive. Bear in mind, I was about 19, 20, and used to like the sound of an engine. So I thought, well, I'm going to hit her a bit. And this guy's shovelling like mad again, and he just looked at me and I said, well, it's uphill this way as well, and we've got lumps of coal coming out the chimney and she's wide open.
Some of the younger drivers were a bit heavy-handed. You know, you had a job to keep up with them. They like to make a lot of noise, so by making a lot of noise, they're using more steam. And to get the steam, you've got to burn more coal. Especially Ken Irving was a classic. I said to him one day, you're going to knock it out. You put it in as a shovel. The more noise you could make, the better it was, and the faster you could go, the better it was. The Seth, you know what I mean, you had to go everywhere so fast. And if he could knock 5 minutes off the timetable, then he would. Yeah, he'd love it.
Meanwhile, over on the old London and South Western Main Line, there were also plenty of rivalries to contend with, as John Hardy, Tom Upshall and Stan Symes remember.
I got back to Dorset on my first preference as a fireman, and unfortunately it was only a short period of time and they closed us down and we moved to Weymouth. You think you're going to go down on the Western and they called themselves enginemen, but I've never met one yet.
Because they used to hate us blokes, look, southern men.
And you'd get the old Bournemouth men sat in the lobby by the bank there at Weymouth and they'd say, let him pay on the old freight like. He said, he was on the Bournemouth Bell yesterday and on the old freight today. Of course, a few Weymouth guys there, he's knocking them. They didn't think we could mix.
Bournemouth, even in the main line link, they used to do some freight trains. It mixed in with passenger trains, not like they were on the Western, for instance, where you had goods drivers, passenger drivers.
We had a special passenger to Westbury, and you always had a 24-hour control room. Wooden nut on the end of the platform at Westbury. You went in there and got on the phone to whoever. Oh, the driver, there's a coal special for Dorchester West. Back so-and-so, we'd like you to work it. He says, I'm passenger today. No way would they. If they were passenger duty, they were passenger.
As they became integrated and they came up to Bournemouth and that, then the situation changed and they were one of us like.
Even as new technology was introduced, rivalries remained, as Tom Upshall describes.
We used to like filling the box up between Oxford and Didcot, and then you used to fly round the bend at Didcot and get out on the old Western Bristol main line, like, and we used to go like the flippin' clappers, and the old blue Pullman used to slide round the corner, and we used to be cab to cab till Pangbourne. My mate knew then that you had to shut the regulator because the old Pullman had the right way through in the regiment. The old driver would be sat up there with his partial form. Of course, as you can imagine, there was a couple of whistles, a long and a short, but I'm not going to tell you what that means. But and then there was a few hand signals, you know, but we used to do that often, upset the old drivers.
Some incidents proved a little unnerving.
We're in this tunnel, you're looking out through, and then all of a sudden, his face is there. And that's my reflection. And then he opens his mouth and you can see his teeth. My mate, Phil Dorr, he walked round the front of the engine and was stood looking through the window. Can you imagine if he'd have fell off? Now I'd have come out that tunnel and I said to him, you silly, stupid devil, frightened me to death, I can tell you.
There were also lighter moments to enjoy, however.
Always down Pool Yard on a Wednesday night, used to have the old speedway with a water tank, flipping big thing. You used to go up this little steel ladder and we used to sit on top of the tank and you could look right over in the stadium. Anyway, this night I'd already been up there. I thought, well, I better let my mate go up. And he was happy and he got all excited. And all of a sudden I see him throw his hands up and I shut my eyes. I thought, I hope to God he's going the right way and not going, and hit the deck. The old trainer said, what's up? I said, my mate fell in the tank. He said, how did he get inside the tank? And he was thinking about inside the M7's tank, in the water tank. I said, yes, silly old fool, the tank up here. He gets out there and looks in, and he's hanging on to the strengthener bar. And he said, God, he said, this water doesn't have to taste horrible up here because it's rainwater and everything else. Anyway, we got him down, dried his clothes out. I went on with the shunting. Poor old young Element, he wouldn't go up that tank no more. And that was the end of it.